After my sister lost her job, I let her and her kids move into my apartment. I paid double rent, bought groceries, gave up my bedroom. One night I came home to find the locks changed. "You're technically just a guest here," she told the police. She'd put the lease in her name while I was working double shifts. I slept in my car that night, but the next morning, I spoke to the landlord and I'm writing this from a tiny one-bedroom apartment across town from the place I used to call home. I haven't slept much. My whole life flipped upside down because of someone I trusted more than anyone, my own sister. It started last year. I'd been living in a two-bedroom apartment in Fort Worth, Texas for over 4 years. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I worked long hours delivering packages for a courier company and picked up warehouse shifts on weekends. It was hard work, but I liked the feeling of paying my bills on time. I didn't owe anyone anything, and that mattered to me. Then my sister Trina called me crying. She had just lost her job working as a receptionist at a dental clinic. Her ex had stopped sending child support. She had nowhere else to go. She sounded scared and desperate. She begged me to let her and her 2 kids, both boys, 4 and 7, stay with me just for a little while. I told her yes. She moved in that weekend. To make space, I moved into the smaller room, the one that barely fit a twin bed and a plastic dresser. I gave her and the kids my room, the one with the queen bed and the closet. I bought a second-hand bunk bed for them and helped set it up. I paid for all the groceries, extra electricity, more water. Rent went up by $300 when the landlord found out there were 3 more people. I didn't argue. I covered it. At first, I thought we were helping each other. She watched my place while I worked. I even thought it was kind of nice having the kids around. But as weeks turned into months, I noticed things were getting weird. Trina didn't look for jobs. She slept in late. When I came home after 10 or 12-hour shifts, she was on the couch watching shows while the kids made messes in the kitchen or played video games on full volume. I bought snacks and groceries that disappeared overnight. Once, I came home to find her and 2 of her friends drunk on wine while the boys were eating chips for dinner. I called her out. She cried. Said she was overwhelmed. Said she'd try harder. She didn't. It happened on a Thursday night in January. I'll never forget it. I'd worked from 8 a.m. to nearly midnight. Cold, tired, sore. When I got to my apartment, I tried my key. It didn't work. I tried again. Still nothing. Then I saw the lock had been replaced. New, shiny, brass. My stomach dropped. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked louder. Finally, she opened it just a crack. She looked half asleep, hair tied up, phone in her hand. "What's going on?" I asked. "I changed the lock," she said. "You can't just come and go like this. The boys are asleep." "Trina, I live here. Why would you change the lock?" She stepped outside and shut the door behind her. "Look, I talked to the landlord. The lease is in my name now. I told him you moved out." I stared at her. "You did what?" "I've been handling the bills while you're out working all the time. It just made more sense. I'm on the lease now. You're not. I pay for everything." I yelled. "This is my apartment." "Not anymore," she said quietly. "You're technically just a guest now." I didn't believe her. Until she called the cops. When the officer arrived, he didn't care that I'd lived there 4 years. He looked at the lease and said she had the right to refuse entry. I couldn't prove anything. All the utilities were under the apartment complex's name. She had receipts for the last 2 months of rent, money she took from my account while I was out working. That night, I slept in my car parked in the corner of the complex. The next morning, I went to the leasing office as soon as they opened. The landlord, Derek, looked nervous when he saw me. He knew me. We'd spoken every couple months for years. He knew I paid my rent on time. "She said you were moving out," he told me. "Said you gave her permission to take over the lease. She paid the deposit and rent up front. She even had something with your signature." "She forged it," I said. "I'm sorry, man. But legally, she's the tenant now. If you think there's fraud, you'll have to take her to court." So I did. But court takes time. I had nowhere to go in the meantime. I crashed with a buddy from work for a couple weeks, but I couldn't stay long. Eventually, I found a small place in a rougher part of town. Barely enough space for a bed and my uniforms. Every time I passed my old street, I felt sick. She had stolen my home. I let her in out of kindness. And she used me like trash. That's when I decided I wasn't going to just move on. I was going to burn everything she built on my back. I gathered proof. Every bank statement showing grocery runs, rent transfers, and random purchases I didn't recognize. Screenshots of texts where she admitted not working. Voice memos of her saying things like, "You don't mind paying for a bit longer, right?" Then I contacted her ex's mom. They hadn't seen the kids in over a year. Trina told them the dad was abusive. But he had proof he wasn't. Texts, letters, a clean court record. I showed them everything I had. They were furious. They filed for emergency visitation and eventually joint custody. Then I called CPS. It wasn't out of spite. It was real concern. I had seen what went on in that apartment. Trash piled up. Weed out in the open. Random guys in and out while the kids sat with iPads and soda for breakfast. CPS showed up one afternoon. My buddy who still lived in the complex told me Trina freaked out when they knocked. A week later, the kids were gone. I paid $1,500 I didn't really have for a lawyer who specialized in tenant rights. We filed a civil claim. Illegal eviction, identity fraud, and financial abuse. Trina didn't show up to the first hearing. Probably thought I wouldn't go through with it. The judge ruled in my favor. She was ordered to pay restitution for 3 months' rent, court fees, and damages. Her paycheck from her new job at a daycare started getting garnished. But she didn't last long there. I made sure people in her life saw the court ruling. I didn't go out blasting it on social media, but I sent it to a few people I knew she leaned on, her best friend, her cousin, even her old church group. People stopped answering her calls. She lost her job at the daycare when they did a background check and saw the CPS report and court order. You can't work around kids with that kind of record. 3 months after I was kicked out, she got her own eviction notice. She couldn't keep up with rent. I heard from my old neighbor that she packed up her car one night and left. No idea where she went. After Trina disappeared, I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Couple months passed. I was settling into my new place, still scraping by, still angry, but trying to move forward. Then I got a call. It was my bank. They asked if I had recently opened a new credit card account. I hadn't. They told me someone had used my name, my social, and my old address to apply for 3 different cards. One was already maxed out with nearly $4,000 in charges. I froze. Only one person had access to that kind of information. Trina. I drove straight to the police station and filed a report. Identity theft. I gave them everything I had: old mail, emails, texts. They opened an investigation. But it didn't stop there. 2 weeks later, a letter from a payday loan company showed up at my door. Another one in my name. $900 loan. Defaulted. She was using my info to stay afloat. Wherever she was drowning and dragging me down with her. I called the number on the letter and asked for a recording of the loan application call. The guy on the other end said, "The woman on the recording clearly says her name is Trina, but she gives your social and date of birth." I felt sick. I had a friend who did skip tracing. Finding people who don't want to be found. He owed me a favor from years back when I helped him move cross-country after his divorce. 2 days later, he gave me an address. She was living in a rundown motel in Arlington with some guy. The guy had a record, possession, domestic stuff. Not serious charges, but enough to make my stomach turn. And the kids? They were still with their dad. Safe, thank God. I didn't go to the motel. Not yet. I had a better idea. I contacted every lender that had accounts opened under my name. I gave them police reports, fraud affidavits, and copies of the court judgment against her. Once the investigation linked everything to her, her name got flagged in several databases. That meant she couldn't open new loans. She couldn't rent in her name. She couldn't pass a background check. She was locked out of the system. I knew she'd try to work under the table, so I took another step. I called the IRS. Told them I had reason to believe someone was using my identity and not reporting income from off-the-books work. They opened a file. Then I called the Texas Health and Human Services office. Trina had been getting benefits, SNAP, Medicaid, maybe more. I told them about the fraud case. Sent them the court papers. They opened an investigation into her benefits. It snowballed. 3 months later, she showed up at my door. She looked different, pale, tired, angry. I didn't even open the screen door. You happy now? She hissed. I have nothing. You did it to yourself. I did what I had to do for my kids. No, you did what was easy. You stole from the one person who had your back. She started crying. They took my food stamps. They're garnishing everything. I can't get a job. I'm gonna end up on the street. You already were, I said. Now the system just caught up. I'm your sister, she said, through gritted teeth. You were, I said. Now you're just another thief I had to stop. She tried to come inside. I told her I'd call the cops. She backed off. I haven't seen her since. A few weeks after Trina showed up at my door, things got quiet. Too quiet. No more surprise debts. No letters. No calls from creditors. No messages from her. I started to relax a little. Got a few more shifts at the warehouse, started saving again. Even thought about applying for a better place. I was finally feeling like my life was mine again. Then one morning, my manager pulled me into the office. Hey man, he said, looking awkward. We got a weird call. Someone left a voicemail saying you stole from the company. Inventory. Said you've been reselling packages. Accused you of clocking in fake hours. I just stared at him. What? I asked. He shrugged. I don't believe it. Your records are clean. But we had to look into it. They pulled surveillance. Checked inventory logs. Nothing was missing. But the fact someone had tried to get me fired sent me over the edge. It was Trina. I knew it was. I called my lawyer again. Told him everything. He advised filing for a restraining order, so I did. I brought all the proof, her visit to my place, the identity theft, the fraud case, and now the false tip to my job. The judge granted it. She was legally banned from contacting me, showing up near me, or using my information for anything. Then something else happened. Her ex, the father of her kids, called me out of nowhere. We hadn't spoken directly before, just through his mom. He told me Trina had tried to take the kids back. She showed up at my house yelling, he said. Told the boys to get in the car. They cried. My oldest refused. He had full custody by then. CPS and family court had sided with him. She's unraveling, he told me. I'm just giving you a heads up. I came home from work one night and found a notice stuck to my door. Court summons. Trina was suing me for emotional damages, wrongful eviction, and loss of opportunity. Claimed I manipulated her while she was in emotional distress. Forced her into financial dependence, then set her up to fail. It was insane. But legally, she had the right to file it. And now I had to show up in court again. My lawyer laughed when he saw the paperwork. This is grasping. But she's trying to drag you into another legal mess to wear you down. I was tired. I was angry. But I wasn't backing down. Before the court date, I got an anonymous tip through a burner email. No name, just a Gmail account that said, thought you should know who she's really been staying with. Attached was a photo. Trina. And Derek. My old landlord. They were at some restaurant, laughing. Holding hands. Suddenly, everything clicked. The lease transfer? The missing paperwork? The landlord, not realizing she forged my name? He'd been helping her. He was in on it. And now, I had something bigger than small claims court. I stared at the photo of Trina and Derek for a long time. My hands were shaking. Everything made sense now, the fake lease, the landlord letting it slide, Trina getting on the lease without me being contacted. Derek didn't make a mistake. He helped her take everything from me. Maybe he thought with me out of the way, they could turn that apartment into their love nest. Maybe it was just some sleazy affair that got too deep. Either way, I wasn't letting it go. This wasn't just family betrayal anymore. It was legal fraud. And now I had the evidence. I sent the photo to my lawyer. He lit up. We can build something off this. If the landlord helped commit fraud, we can go after him, too. That lease transfer? Illegal. He could lose his license. And the company he works for, if they find out, that apartment complex could be facing a lawsuit. We filed a formal complaint with the Texas Real Estate Commission and the apartment's property management company. I sent copies of everything, emails, text logs, bank statements, and now the photo. 2 weeks later, Derek was fired. Not let go. Fired. Terminated for violations of lease procedures, failure to properly document tenant communications, and ethical misconduct. Trina had been living with him. And now he was out of a job. But I wasn't finished. The day of Trina's lawsuit came. I showed up with a full folder of evidence. I was calm. She was not. She wore a tight blazer, overdone makeup, and looked like she hadn't slept in days. I didn't have to say much. My lawyer destroyed her in court. We brought up the previous judgment where she owed me money, the false report she made to my job, the restraining order, the identity theft case with police records, her involvement with Derek, who had just been fired and blacklisted from working in property again, her attempt to abduct her children from their legal guardian. She broke down on the stand, crying, yelling, said I ruined her life. The judge dismissed her lawsuit within 15 minutes. But we weren't done. My lawyer filed a counterclaim for harassment, emotional distress, and financial damages from all the debt she dragged me into. This time, I didn't just win. The judge ordered her to pay me over $18,000. She tried to appeal. Denied. Tried to get help from friends. She had none left. Her name was flagged on every rental system. No apartment would touch her. Her background had court cases, a CPS report, a fraud flag, and a restraining order. She couldn't get work, couldn't get benefits, couldn't open accounts, couldn't even Uber drive. She ended up couch surfing, then eventually moved into her car. I heard through her ex that she left Texas, tried to start over in New Mexico, but her legal record followed her. She called her mom, begged for help. Our mom told her, "You should have never stolen from your brother." I didn't walk away untouched. I lost savings. I lost time. I lost sleep. I had nights where I couldn't stop replaying the whole thing in my head. Me handing her the keys that first night, thinking I was doing the right thing. But I also learned, people will cross lines you didn't even know existed if you give them the chance. Family doesn't mean they won't stab you in the back. Sometimes it just means they'll get close enough to do it deeper. But I got my revenge. And I did it the right way. No violence. No screaming matches. Just slow, steady justice. I got my life back. She lost hers. And in the end, that's all I ever wanted.